We're going to talk about the planet before we get to the show. I think we can all see that the materials we use in this industry, the processes in this industry, and the life cycle of those products, they're having a negative impact on the people and the planet. And I think we could probably agree that we can and we should work together in some way to improve that. And we do know from this podcast that we are better together, aren't we? Look at the community that we've created together. Look at the things that we've achieved because we were together. So I want to tell you about an opportunity. It's called Interior Design Declares. The United Kingdom has started the very first country group chapter of Interior Design Declares, and they are making a call to action. They are asking the USA and any other country that you might be listening from to join together and start a country chapter in your country. Interior Design Declares is a voluntary pledge that you make to improve and learn together to lower the impact that this industry is having on the planet. It is a network of designers, suppliers, and educators all working toward the same goal. And guess what? They don't care where you are personally or professionally in the journey. They just know you have to start somewhere, and why not with them? So this is a call to you. If it resonates with you, if this is something you have wanted to get involved in, but you weren't sure how or where to do it. Interior Design Declares needs 5 people from each country to be a co-founder volunteer. And then once they have that, they will guide you on how to run the group, how to share the learnings, and how to inspire and campaign together to lead your country and the industry to do better, to be better. Now, if you are interested, you can learn more about the UK group at interiordesigndeclares.co.uk. And if you're even just a tiny bit interested in wondering what it would mean to start a chapter in your country, you don't have to worry about being obligated. Just interested is all you need to be. If that's you, drop an email to info@interiordesignDeclares.co.uk and put in the subject line, Luann sent me. Okay, so info@interiordesignDeclares.co.uk, and we will also put these links in the show notes. So you got a little interest, take a little step, take a little action, make a big change. Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Before we get into today's episode, I want to let you know that we're doing something a little different over the next several months. We're bringing back the most downloaded, the most talked about episodes from the last 9 years of A Well-Designed Business. These are the episodes that built businesses, that sparked aha moments, that turned you into an action taker. Now, if you're wondering why we're revisiting these episodes and what's changing with the show overall, well, I walk you through the full vision in our April 25th, 2025 episode titled The Big Shift, What's Changing on a Well-Designed Business and Why. That episode is linked for you in the show notes. Now, a quick heads up. These episodes are airing as they originally did. That means the music might sound familiar or it might be vintage. That means the event dates will definitely be out of date that I talk about. And it also means that any offers that are mentioned may or may not be valid still. But the insights, still golden. So whether it's your first time hearing this episode or your 5th time hearing it, there's something in this conversation for you right now in this season of your business. So here's the show. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. And today is our final episode that we have been doing here related to the Design Bloggers Conference that was just held this past March 2017 in LA. And hopefully you've been listening along. We had Claire Stasek from Centered by Design last week, and we have Kelsey Gross, the Farmer's Daughters Interior last week. We had a couple of Power Talk Fridays around it. And today is the final episode with Amber Lewis, the principal of Amber Interiors in Southern California. Amber was the opening keynote speaker at the conference. So I'm sure most of you have probably heard of her. She's got an amazing business, an insane platform in social media. But in case you have not heard of Amber, and you weren't there at the conference, let me tell you a little bit about her. Basically, Amber started out as a small interior design blog that focused on the documenting of her and her husband's experience as first-time homeowners. And she also was sharing just her passion for interior design in general. This blossomed into a successful design and build firm with clients all over the country, a line of furniture and home goods, an e-commerce business, and a brick and mortar retail operation. And as I said, a social media following with an audience reach in the millions. It's pretty remarkable. And what's really cool is that Amber actually talks about that path and how it went from the blog to this successful, platform that she has. So it's very interesting. She's very real and she's very honest about it, about both the fun part and the struggle. So it's sort of interesting. Amber Interior Design right now at this point in time designs everything from large-scale residences to extensive commercial projects. Amber and her team work with architects and contractors to bring this distinct visions seen in her work and on her blog and in her retail shop to life. Light-filled rooms, colorful textiles, natural elements, earthy textures, brushed metals. These are the elements that define and can always distinguish an Amber Interiors designed home. Amber currently lives in Calabasas with her husband and her business partner, Mike, their daughter, Gwyneth, and all of their little fur babies. So, and this year coming out is her first book, The California Eclectic. It's due out this year, 2017. So before we get to our interview with Amber, I'm going to tell you a little bit about My Doma Studio, and then we'll be right back with Amber Lewis. My great thanks to My Doma Studio, our podcast sponsor. What is My Doma Studio? Well, as busy interior designers, that running your own design firm isn't just about designing. That's what we talk about here all the time, right? There's managing contracts, clients, payments, products, and a million other things that you have to have locked down. It is challenging, but you must run your firm efficiently so you can do the fun, creative things you enjoy so much. And that's where My Doma Studio comes in. I'd like to invite you to try My Doma Studio today. Go to mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business. Designers around the world are using My Doma Studio. What about you? Let My Doma Studio help you organize the business side and spend more time on the designing side of your firm. I'd also like to share with you that Vin, Bill, and myself are so impressed with My Doma Studio that we have invested in this company. So see for yourself what My Doma Studio can do for your interior design business. And if you visit using the link mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business, you will receive a special offer just for you as listeners of the podcast. Hi, Amber. Thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hello, Luann. I am thrilled to be here.
I am excited too because, of course, I saw your presentation at the conference, at the Design Bloggers Conference, but I didn't have a chance to meet you, and I was sorry for that in person because you really are something else. I mean, you have, first of all, just, yes,
I'll take that as a compliment.
You definitely, it's exactly how I mean it. I mean, your body of work is incredible. What you have accomplished and what you are doing at such a young age. I mean, I know that you're a grown-up woman here, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and then, of course, your personality is just adorable. So I'm glad that, I have some strings I can pull and I can get to meet people whenever I want, usually. So this is very exciting for me. Thank you for doing it. So let's do there was parts of your story at the Design Bloggers that I thought were, fun and interesting that our, friends that are listening didn't necessarily get to hear. So I'm particularly interested in that little space of time where, first of all, I'll share with everybody that you spent a couple of years working for Elizabeth Lamont and her stores down at the beach there at Room with a View or Room at the Beach. I don't know which one you said you worked at, right?
Room at the View, when it was in Santa Monica.
Right, at Santa Monica. And I thought that was pretty cool since Elizabeth was on the show and she was on episode number 17 for anybody who wants to wrap that connection around. So you talked about that was an experience that you said is where you fell in love with pretty things in design and felt like it was starting to call you. Tell us a little bit about that and then tell us where that led you to the next position, which I know you really said was very influential.
Yeah, so I grew up in the same town as Liz. She was actually a friend of my mom's, and we grew up in Malibu. Well, I grew up in Malibu, and Liz had a store in Malibu and was from Malibu. And she had my mom was, I was 19 years old. I was so young. I'm 36 now, so however many years. Well,
Geez, you still look like you're about 19, I have to say. Good for you.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
I try to I have this magical potion I drink every night.
You're going to have to share it. I'm just saying.
Well. Anyway, so my mom essentially saw her one day and Liz was like, oh, you should have her come work for me or something. So I did. I applied. I got the job. And it was a store that sold these beautiful, fine, really fine things, silverware and plates and bed linens, and it was just a full home design store and run the gamut, like wedding registries, everything. If anybody knows anything about Room at the Beach or Room at the View, back in its heyday, Room at the View on Montana Avenue in Santa Monica, I mean, it was like the place to go. Everybody went there. If you were registered to get married, to the person walking in to host 35 people and would buy all the silverware and whatever, everything.
Yeah, she said it was 5,000 square feet, if I remember from the interview.
Yeah, it was. And there was a couple of us on the floor. And, I don't necessarily fancy myself the best of sales girls, but people got into it or whatever. But I kind of decided that I was going to do the displays. I sort of just made that my thing. I guess that was all I could really do and I was excited about it. And so I would go into work and I would just do the tables and I would do the beds and the windows and of course guided by the product, but really just kind of started making that my niche, if you will. And I really, really loved it. And I'd always been obsessed with design from a young age because my dad is a builder. So I've never, I always say the joke, I've never lived in a house that wasn't under construction. And I got to see the bare bones of what a house looks like when it's totally torn down and studs. And, my dad would just blab about it all the time because he was so passionate about his job as well. So anyway, so I had a little bit of a background of all that. And I really loved working in a store surrounded by that. So that sort of propelled me into, wow, I think I should maybe do something with this in design. And long story short, I had a little brief stint in fashion school, and that just wasn't my thing because I didn't really quite, make the connection that you could actually make a living from being an interior designer. I think I just thought of a decorator. Oh, so you were just a lady, and that you were just going to walk in and just kind of make something cute and then walk out and you don't get paid for that. I don't know. It didn't make the connection. Didn't happen.
You didn't see the path for an income and a lifestyle.
No, I just thought I just get to paint, pick paint colors and walk out. And so once I started to kind of go down that road, I was like, well, I better do fashion or something because I'm never going to make money being an interior designer. That just doesn't happen. And I was so wrong.
It's probably reverse. You probably have a better chance in design and fashion, right?
God, I went to fashion school and I hated every single second of it. And truth be told, I hate school, period. So I was the senior in high school who had 86 absences and just kind of somehow weaseled my way to pass. But anyway, so I went to fashion school, hated it, dropped out after not even 6 months, and just was kind of working and floundering. And my dad was really all about the school thing. And he said, well, if you want me to continue helping you out, you have to go to school and work full time. Right. So I started taking night classes at UCLA Extension, and I really loved it. I loved it like thought it was
Oh.
amazing.
So school
And I
wasn't so bad anymore. You
it
figured out you
wasn't
just
so
needed
bad
to find something you liked, right?
absolutely. And I feel like that was my lucky I got like really a lucky gig kind of soon. So I
Mm,
didn't have to go through 4 years of college wasting all my parents' money when I knew immediately it wasn't for me. I kind of
right.
like found my niche, figured it out. But I I met my husband at 22, so I was very young
Mm,
with that. And I sort of kind of like at the same time simultaneously got offered a job to work for a designer that again from my hometown in Malibu, this woman Kirsten, and she hired me to work with her as an assistant, really, just in her design firm. So I left Room with the View, was working with Kirsten now, still going to school, trying to figure it all out. And I caught on really quickly like, wow, not only can you make a living, but I'm learning more working for a designer than I am in school.
mm.
And so I kind of quickly left school then too. So I think I really the common thread
This is
here is
not
that
exactly what we're giving people as advice. This is just the fun story part.
the fun story part. Everybody go to school because now I won't hire anybody unless they go to school.
Right.
So it's actually kind of a funny story. But no, so I ended up kind of landing on my feet with this amazing job, making, pretty great money and working for this woman who was such an amazing mentor and still is, and who taught me quite a lot and really just kind of threw me in the trenches of design.
This
And I
is
figured it out pretty
Kirsten Marie, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Chris Marie in Malibu.
Mm.
And she just put me in the mix of it, said figure it out, and so I did, and I was really lucky to land that job, and kind of the rest is history.
Well, I think there's a couple of things in there, and I do hear you that when you hire for your firm now, that you expect and only want to hire people who have been through school. And I would say that's a good policy, but there are people. Look, I'm one of them too. I've only tried college, 9,000 times also, and haven't completed it. So, it hasn't prevented me from being successful, like it hasn't prevented you. So the thing is that there is a little twist of everything in fate working out the right way. Do you know what I mean? But it does sort of
Absolutely.
take that twist of fate. And so when I look at what your story is expressing is, so you didn't do 4 years of interior design degree, but you did do a lot of the things that you learn in design school at your dad's knee. Like you said,
Yeah.
just paying attention and being involved in that and always having been interested in it. Not that I would say that that's a valid switch for an education, but it does inform why you do have success even though you didn't get the school part of it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, of course, like you
Absolutely.
said, this fabulous mentorship with this design firm. I'm sorry, I've missed. Is it Kirsten or Kristen?
It's Kirsten,
Kirsten, right?
Kirsten.
With
Yeah.
Kirsten Marie,
Hmm.
interiors, right? And so,
Yes.
and that's very important, and that's important even if you've been to interior design school. I believe, and all the
100%.
right, all
Yep.
of the
Yep.
interviews I've done, and all the designers I've known over the years, that there is X amount that can be learned in school, but the other and the bigger part is usually learned at one of those really terrific formative first positions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it. I mean, look, we all like I'm the same as you. Until I could figure out what I was interested in, I couldn't get interested in it. It was like whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the one thing that I will say was a constant. I think owning your own business and running your own business is not for the faint of heart, and it's not for everybody. And I have been the same person from the day I came out of my mother's womb. My mom used to say I would argue and win everything always. And I think that's a part of
Now
being a
we're
business
sounding
owner.
exactly the like.
I know. And I think that's, I have a very, very thick skin, and I know that I have to make a ton of mistakes in order to come out on, learn something from it and come out on top. And I've been really fortunate enough to kind of make mistakes on not only someone else's dime. I learned a lot like in my last job, but also really just on my own dime. Like running a business has not been easy. And I have learned, oh my God, so much just doing it on my own.
Mhm.
And what's been, and it's only, I really think it's not for everybody. And
I
I feel
agree.
like if I was going to be put on this earth to do anything, it's to be doing exactly what I'm doing now, because I got a thick skin.
Yes. Well,
Got
and
to.
it's true. I mean, and it's funny because I have had conversations with interior designers who are struggling, and I'm talking about in my personal over the years at WindowWorks when I meet them face to face and are struggling, and there are times when I've thought to myself, you're not really an entrepreneur. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like you are a super talented interior designer, but you would be better served if you joined somebody else's firm. Do you know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And so
Absolutely.
there is a different ilk into being an entrepreneur than there is to just being, not just, but to being a skilled whatever designer,
Yeah.
carpet layer, whatever it is. So I think that's, pretty good. And I do find a little commonality with that thread that a lot of times it is the entrepreneurial person that does struggle with the, straight up school route,
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I think that,
And you
men,
know what I felt like sorry to
no, go
interrupt,
right
but I
ahead.
felt like what I learned was I was learning how to work for someone else, ultimately knowing that I wanted to learn from someone else, but actually in the field. So while going to school and spending whatever it was to be in school felt like a very expensive way to learn what I would learn the hard way by working for someone else.
Right,
And at the time I was very comfortable being number two. And
right.
I feel like a lot of people are in the world are comfortable being number two. And so when I was absorbing as much as I could from my last job, it was all with kind of in the back of my mind, pretty much knowing like, okay, well, I could probably do that and maybe not even do it better, but I could do it, and I'm learning a lot
Right,
from
right, right.
mistakes and whatnot.
Well, and that's a key component to running a successful anything,
Yeah,
particularly a business, is to when you're in knee deep in the middle of a mistake, whether it's a big one or a little one, is to learn the lesson that you're supposed to learn through it. Like, don't just
yeah,
like, oh, that didn't work and I don't know what it is and blame the world and move on and then repeat the same mistake. It's learn that lesson from that failure, because the failures come, the success comes from it. So,
yeah,
yeah, smart,
absolutely.
very smart.
Uh,
So I'm
Thanks.
curious now. So interestingly that you said that you only now will consider hiring people that have been to school. So you've had some ahas, some revelations. What's your thoughts on that?
I have to say mainly just because they will pick up where I lack. So more importantly, like this, I am, and my employees hopefully will tell you the same thing. I'm sure they will. But the only difference between them and me is that my name's on the door and I pay the bills. And it is a team effort. And if I lack at like a skill, or if I am not on the computer doing the CAD, I'm sketching like a crazy person all the time, but I don't put it into computer and I don't put it into CAD. But these girls who have been in school for 4+ years, who are extremely efficient in it and extremely whatever, they are able to translate what I'm drawing into computer, which then puts me into a category of being able to work with the higher end architects and the higher end builders that are going to understand my drawings.
Oh,
I can't
that's awesome.
necessarily take these sketches to someone else. So it is absolutely crucial for me that I need that person or those employees in my business to be able to help me excel where I would technically lack. So
That's actually brilliant, Amber. That's
yeah,
actually
thanks.
brilliant. I mean, it really is, because it's so clear that
Yeah.
it's one of the things that we often miss as business owners is, and I've talked about it on the program before, and Barbara Fatiri has talked about it on the program. I'm sure Kay Whitaker and Krista Cooper have also talked about it, is, you make a list of what you can do well, and then you hire the person that can do the things that you can't do well. You make the list of things you can't do well. You know what I
Right.
mean? And hire outside of that. So it's what is self-awareness on your part to really understand that, okay, so you can be a cowboy and you can own this business and you can do all that because you've done all the hard work of actually learning it. But when it comes down to these actual technical skills, and I love the sentence that you said, that enables you to go to the architects and present your idea is as valid and as beautiful, whether it's on paper or CAD, but you couldn't swim in that ocean if you didn't do it the way they expect it.
Yep.
I love it.
Absolutely. And for some of
It's
these
so smart.
architects that are so genius and so whatever, and they only speak computer,
Right.
I think they'll speak a little bit of a sketch, but it's few and
Right.
far between. And another kind of tangent I'll go on as well is that it is so absolutely this is a team driven business. I mean,
Mm,
it has to be. There is no way that anybody could do this one thing by themselves. And so when I'm looking for staff members and I'm looking for people that I will hire, them having the schooling that I necessarily didn't, I will know that I will also be like, especially if they're coming straight out of school and coming and working for me, that I am actually being able to mold them to work the way that I'm needing them to work to better the business. So it's really crucial for me, at least.
I love it. I think it's so awesome. And well, you know what it is? It's like I said, many business coaches have expressed the need to do it that way. I just think it's pretty awesome that you actually have a very clear understanding of it for yourself. You know what I mean? That you're just stand there in your space and say, yeah, I am a rock star and I have like a billion followers on social media and I have this amazing business, but these are the things I really don't do that well or I don't know how to do. So I'm going to find those people and put them on my team. I think it's great.
And you know what I call myself around here? I think the biggest thing that I've just owned and what everybody knows is that I am the editor. So I edit and I edit and I edit and I edit and I edit. And that is basically the majority of my job title, is making sure that it looks the way that I want it to and the end product is exactly the way that I envision it, but I've edited myself along the process,
Very nice. Yeah. Right. It's terrific. So let's talk about a little bit about the Design Bloggers Conference, of course. So you were keynoting there. So had you given a keynote or any speech of that nature before they invited you to ask you to do that?
Oh, no. And I was so nervous. I mean, I was. And it's so funny because anybody that knows me, they think I'm like this bananas extrovert that just like all over the place and just like blah, 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 blah. And I am. But for some reason, I think when you're
usually not in front of 300 people, though.
No, and especially when they're sitting there looking at you like you're some kind of expert, and
they're going, thrill me.
No, I'm like, okay, I gotta own this. I'm gonna wear this cape today. I don't know if I am, but we'll work on it together. So it was a little bit of like oh crap, I better fake this real good right now, and it was nerve wracking, but after I did it, I was like, I got this. I could do this to 1,000 people next time. So it was great. It was great.
That's terrific. That's good. I happened to speak to a couple of people that literally said that they came because you were speaking.
Oh, great.
Yes.
I heard that too. And I was that's, I think, probably why I was so damn nervous. I was hoping that in the very beginning that it was going to be because I was like, I kind of like laughed. I was like, I'm the opener. It's cool. It's 9 a.m. Not a single person is going to be there. And then when I saw that the room was kind of packed, I went, oh, wow.
No, 9:00. Yeah, no, people come for the beginning. It's like it's the after lunch ones that you gotta. It's like
when everybody's drunk from lunch.
That's it, or they're just tired, or they're still at lunch, and oh my god, I don't want to go back. I know. I was very happy that we were right after you, so I was like, okay, this is awesome.
I hope I opened it up okay for you. I kind of you probably were good after me. But anyway, I was so absolutely like tripped out and nervous, and I fumbled like all my pages. I was trying to kind of read the notes a little bit.
I forgot about that.
Fumbled them. I know. I was trying to throw one of my employees. I'm like, it's her fault. Throwing her. It was totally my fault. I didn't even review them. I was too nervous. But anyway, it was great after I kind of loosened up a little.
Yeah, no, you did it. You did a fine job. And I just was curious if it was your first time or if you do it on a regular basis or whatever. But interesting. Yes. But like I said, I
answer questions, but I think like off the cuff, kind of like that was a little bit. The structure is kind of sort of hard for me.
Yes. Well, I have to say, you said something that you said a lot of things that were very great observations and smart things to share with us. But one thing hit me right between the eyes, and I ended up repeating it in my presentation half hour later because it was so good. And I didn't repeat it. Hey, I'm owning this. I said, remember what Amber just told us, that you said to not compare yourself to somebody else's middle of their journey when you're on the beginning of your journey.
Yeah.
And
don't compare your start to someone else's middle.
That's what it was. Don't compare your start to somebody else's middle. And that's such a really, really cool thing to remember for designers out there and bloggers out there that are at their start, because it is crazy to look at somebody like yourself and the success that you have and all of the things that, seem to just be happening. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of not just happening,
No,
right?
not
Exactly.
happening at all. I will show you pictures of myself a couple years ago, and we'll look at the bags that I'm now carrying under my eyes. This has
Exactly.
not come easily.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. And it's like, I mean, we all tend to do it. And I think others get stopped in their tracks by it. I would say for myself personally, I don't ever get stopped in my tracks by it. I look around, I see what's happening, but I mostly is sort of like what you were saying before. I take the lessons from it. Like, what are they doing that's working? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you do, as a human being, you have a moment of, whoa, that's amazing.
Like, how is that possible?
Exactly.
Yeah. What are they doing? Or did they sell their soul to someone? Like,
Ex-
you definitely look at it, and it's hard. And even I, to this day, will look at some of the girls around me, or like some of the other kind of people in my profession, that I'm like, there is no way. How is this happening? Like, when do they sleep? When do they eat? How is any of this going on? And you know what? At the end of the day, I also then kind of have to put myself back in and go, but we're all comparing apples to oranges
right,
here.
right.
So what someone else may be doing, or even like these stupid social media numbers that people tend to fixate on, which is
Mm,
amazing and wonderful, doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's happening behind the scenes.
right.
So part of me, where I kind of tend to sort of have to kind of bring myself down, and even in comparing, and for anybody who's starting, it's that you may be working on 5 projects that are better than anything I will ever even look at.
Right.
But I have more followers, and that means something? Absolutely not.
Right.
It means that just more people know about me, and it is what it is. But behind the scenes is what really matters, and kind of and what you're doing to actually create your foundation is what really matters. And that's what I try to say when it's your start to someone's middle, is that when I first started, it's taken me however many years to get to this spot, and it has not happened overnight, and it has not happened through luck. It has been a lot of hard work, and a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of really just personal, like, wow, I don't know if I can do this. I think
Mm,
I can, but man, this is a lot going on. and
right.
and it's really been my greatest achievements have been the ones that social media doesn't know about.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the beauty of life, is that
Yeah.
there's a lot of things. Not always everything means numbers, and it's not always what your numbers say that is actually what you're doing. So
No, it's
remember
true.
that one.
The thing about the thing about it is the thing that can't be ignored, which is the tough part, is you're 100% true that your true successes and the things that probably mean the most to you have the least to do with the numbers, okay?
Right.
But what can't be ignored is that with the numbers comes the awareness, comes the opportunities, okay? And so
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
the tough part. So we can't really look at people and say, "Hey, don't worry about the numbers." You know what I mean? It's like, but the thing what I would love to talk about is, because I would be willing to bet, just having listened to you at the conference and just in this last 15 minutes of the conversation, is that you probably didn't start it thinking about the numbers, and just because you're
Oh
so
God, no.
it
Yeah.
happened. And that's the thing, that is the thing to teach and the thing to share. And so talk to somebody who's out there with 500 followers, and that's an interior designer, and maybe has 1 or 2 projects under their belt. And what are the things, when you think back, Amber, because I know you just did whatever you did authentically. I'm going to,
Yeah.
between your conversation and just the little bit that I'm actually meeting you now, personally talking to you. But when you look back and analyze it, could you identify, well, I happened to just do that naturally and authentically, but this was a thing that actually turned out to be a great tip that I could share with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it's funny, because I actually have wanted to go back and analyze it a little bit, because, if I'm completely honest, some of the past couple years have been such a blur, and it's trying to remember that timeline of events that
Mm,
sometimes is where you kind of gain some knowledge of, like, okay, what's your next move? So, like, almost going back to your beginning sometimes for me has been what has propelled me to, like, whatever next level it is. So, like, almost where my focus was at that point, where was I, and then how am I here now? So when I first started, I really was engaging with my community obsessively. So,
Okay. Obsessive
I
engagement, tip one. Okay.
yes, obsessive engagement. And I was commenting and liking and following and really just, and not really to gain followers. It was truly just an authentic obsession with what was going on. And so, because I engaged so much with my community, that's where I really started to develop a name, because it wasn't like I was just liking someone in the shadows. I was liking and I was commenting and
Mm,
then I was liking again. Or then I was, Instagramming, or I was blogging about something that I saw on Instagram or Pinterest or whatever. And it became almost a full circle. I really tried to back up an Instagram with a blog, with a Pinterest, and then back with an Instagram. It was almost just the way, like kind of like Pinterest works. You pin something and then it recommends 15 other pins for you or something. I was sort
right.
of using that uh, whatever formula, if you will, and
Right.
applying that to how I was engaging in my social media. So
And
it
was
was
that
really
just a
just about
natural
engagement.
thing because you naturally were so interested in the thing you found on Pinterest that you then
Yeah.
made a blog? Or was it sort of conscious and you understood that as much as you enjoyed it, there was a method to it?
I have to be honest and say that it was really coming from an authentic place. It only became once I started to really see that
The
that those
growth, the
numbers were
results.
paying up, yeah,
Okay.
that then I started to go, okay, well, this is actually working for me, and this is what I'm going to continue to do. And it was like setting mini challenges a little bit for myself. And I remember, like, it was like when I first got to 1,000 followers, I was like, how the heck did that just happen? And then and then I was like, wow, that my picture got whatever, however many likes, and then 5,000, whatever it was. There was these little milestones in
Mm.
the numbers, um, and it was starting to sort of pay off. So really, it was obsessively engaging in the community, and then on top of that, it was also coming up with a little bit of a formula, a little bit of a way to kind of do. I used to do this thing where so kind of a backstory. So I had started my blog when I was working for Kirsten. She essentially fired me in the loving way that she did, because I had
Fly
started.
birdie, right?
She's like, "Get out of here! You can do this on your own." So she essentially let me go, and I started the blog documenting, what I was doing in my own home, because we had purchased a house, and we were doing everything by ourselves because my husband and I had absolutely not a dollar to our names. And so, we were just trying to figure out everything on our own. And so we were documenting it. And obviously that resonates with a lot of people, of course,
Right.
because not everybody, especially first time home buyers, the majority of us are all trying to figure it out. Like, how are we going to make our house look cool and do it for no money?
Right.
And as I was doing that, I started realizing, like, man, I'm getting a lot of people asking me questions about where I got this and what I got this. And at the time, I was literally buying fabric that was vintage fabric and sewing pillows. With my nanny was sewing pillows while my daughter slept, kind of thing. And I only was making enough money to pay for my nanny. I was like breaking even and less than that, kind of like to start my own business. It was ridiculous. And so while my daughter was sleeping, she was helping me sew pillows, and the two of us totally had no idea what we were doing, and we were sewing pillows. And it was only because I got so much interest. So from that, I started taking photos of, like, I've got a fascination with shoes. I've been obsessed with shoes always. So it was like putting my feet next to pillows, or like putting, not feet, but like my boots or my
Right.
shoes or whatever on top of a rug. And it was like this back then. Remember, this is however many years ago. A lot of people
Right.
do it now.
So you're the
But
one who started all that.
I don't know if I started it or whatever, but it was like a lot of that top down feet on a rug thing.
Right.
And then it's like, where the heck is that rug from? I'm like, well, actually, just email me and I'll sell it to you. And that is truly how my store started. And it started
Wow.
so and then I started doing these flash sales on Instagram, which I don't know if you followed me from the beginning, anybody who's listening who's followed me from the get-go. I was doing those on like a weekly basis. So I gained a lot of followers from that. I was selling things at like way less than I was paying for them, just because I felt like I was selling them for follow. It was a weird thing. It was like I was selling a pillow at this dirt cheap price because somebody really liked it. And then I'd gain 1,000 followers.
So
And
wait,
so
break that up a little bit. So you would go on. This little strategy still work on Instagram,
I don't
or
do this anymore. I
you
don't do this
you
anymore, but
don't do it anymore? But
no.
could a lesser known designer do it, and it would
Perhaps, or maybe it's something like, I think it was this era of almost like the giveaway. It was a
Okay.
little bit like a giveaway, or well, I'll give you a room design for, nothing. Tell your friends, retag me or whatever. It was a lot of that, like retagging, hashtagging, whatever it was. It was a lot of that, like, again, obsessively engaging in your community.
Okay.
It was like I had a lot of younger moms being like, "What did you do? I want to do that. Here, buy the pillow and tell all your friends."
Right. Now, but even that obsessively engaging with the community, that takes so much time.
It does.
I
And
mean,
it definitely
what would you do? You have any recall of, did you spend an hour a day doing it, 3 hours a day doing it? Do you have recall on that?
Oh yes, I do. It was a very trying time. Like I said, I would, in the very, very beginning, I didn't have any help with my daughter because I just had her. And so it was only, in the very beginning, it was just anytime I could. And luckily I was, nursing her forever. So she loved to snack all day long. So it was like, as soon as I went to pick up to nurse her, I would be on Instagram. Or
Wow.
if I was, like loading, doing whatever I was doing and she was playing on the floor, I would Instagram. I would try to obviously pay a lot of attention to her, but it wasn't, I was like completely obsessed. But she would go to bed at
I mean, if
7:30
she
and
fell
I
over
would,
and knocked her head, you'd pick her
it's
up and
fine.
put the phone
Oh,
down.
absolutely. I put the phone down then. If she was like, underneath the sink in the Clorox, I would make sure to run and get it. But God, we're awful. Anyway, so no, I think it was just at any moment that I had that was free and appropriate, I was on it, and
That's a
really just
lot.
kind of
I mean, that's a lot, I have to say, because, I think what it is I find myself personally, going back and forth and randomly through the day. And then what happens is I will, what I call it is I self-correct myself. I'm like, hello, you're working now. Why did you
yeah,
just do 10 minutes of Instagram? And then I'll be like thinking to myself, well, 10 minutes of Instagram
technically
is
work. Yeah.
sort of supporting the designers that have been on my show and sharing their things. And,
Yeah.
when validly, I mean, legitimately complimenting when I see something's nice. But at the same time, it's sort of like, I mean, to me, it's like the devil and the angel on the shoulders. I'm like, do it,
Yeah.
don't do it, do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
But what you're expressing is, if I had a burning desire to have 1 million Instagram followers, I need to do this regularly and often
Yes.
and genuinely.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is
And
why I do not have 1 million followers.
absolutely. And I think it just becomes part of, and to me, it was part of my job. And, through many, a very like, heated argument with my husband about like, why are you on the thing? I'm like, I promise you, it's going to be worth it one day. And he would laugh.
Oh,
And now we both laugh.
right.
But I would stay up till the wee hours of the night as well, blogging and really diving into the things I couldn't while I was on mom duty.
Right.
Mom duty never stops, but
Right.
whatever the hours of when she was awake,
Right.
and then I would just work into the night. And part of that was Instagram, and part of that was the blog and Pinterest and everything else, and commenting. And it was my full-time job.
Well,
And
and that's
truly it
another
was.
thing to express that, because we often hear the side of the story where, like you just said, I'm staying up into the night and I'm doing this and that and the other thing. But we don't often hear the side of the story where the partner is thinking, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
you're not coming to bed again? And,
Yeah.
you're not with your 1 million followers then, and you're not with this amazing Amber Lewis Interiors company then. And it's just you in your heart just really thinking and believing and knowing that it's going to be worth it someday. But that's a very real thing, to have that partner on the other side of the table or the bed or, the car, and being like, seriously? I mean, in other words, when we see a big Wall Streeter guy who can't even be at the dinner table with his wife, and we all are easy to say, are you kidding me, dude? Like, really?
Yeah.
Put it down, have a glass of wine with your wife, pay attention, your kids at the table. But you had to have experienced that same thing to get to this level where you were literally turning away from family activities and
Yes.
right? Tell us about
Yeah.
that struggle.
Oh man, and it was definitely a struggle. And I say that I poured my heart and soul into this, and I say that not lightly. I mean, I literally was non-stop, Luann. I didn't
That's
stop. And I
insane.
still am a workaholic, but I'm a workaholic a little bit more healthy now. I don't work on the weekends. I try not to, at least. I
Right.
literally say Friday is my last day, and I don't start again until Monday morning. And I'll Instagram and do all that stuff. That is what it is. But if you kind of follow me enough, you see that it's light. It's a little bit more Instagram stories and more like my family and love and like the stuff that I'm doing outside of work stuff. But for the majority, I don't work on the weekends, and that actually took a lot of work to get to that. But anyway,
Right. It's
I
earned. It's
I
earned at this point. You've earned
uh
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's definitely weeks where I tell myself I better get my butt back to work on the weekends. And I will have to have that conversation of, talking myself off the ledge, like, no, you do not have to work on the weekends. You can stop. But
Right.
anyway, but yeah, no, I worked a lot, and I feel like you get back what you put in,
Hmm.
and at no point was I a victim, and I think that that's a huge part of where I am today. I never expected anything that I didn't kind of put out. So I didn't expect these amazing results, and I didn't feel bad for myself when they didn't happen. I just worked harder. And I still to
Right.
this day am that way. I just put one foot in front of the other. There's ups, there's downs, there's parts of this business that'll kill you. There's parts of this business that I think everything that I'm able to be able to do it every day. But I definitely run by the motto of every day I'm learning, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm working harder than I was yesterday,
Right.
and I am not done. I'm
Yes.
not done.
Did
And I'll
you
never be done.
did you have like lockdown fights where you had to fight for the time to do that, where he or anybody in your family was like, honestly, Amber, like you're never even present anymore? Like, did you have those where you had to fight and stand in your space and say, you might not think this is work and you might not understand that this is building something, but I know it very clearly. I see it happening and this is how I have to do it?
I wouldn't say knockdown drag fights, but we definitely butted heads a lot. I mean, part of it was that it was so consuming, and because it took quite a while to actually see results, there was a lot of times where he's like, "What are you doing with your time? Like,
Right.
what is this really?" Yes, so there was a
Yeah.
lot. I think anybody on my family, though, I have such an awesome family and so
Mm.
supportive, and I think that everybody knew who I was, and really like to make me sit down for 5 minutes and not do something is almost impossible.
Right, right, right.
Still
And they
to
know
this
that you
day.
have a drive to succeed.
Yeah,
And they
absolutely.
probably they probably understand that if you put your mind to something, it's going to happen. And so it's the struggle sometimes is the road in getting there. I mean
Yeah,
I'm asking these kinds of questions because I know them to be real. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like we've
absolutely.
experienced this in our business, and at different times in our lives, it's been my husband or me, either one of us in that seat that is
Yeah,
completely consumed. So there were many times in the beginning years that he was the one that was consumed. And, you'd look and say, thank God for me that those years weren't when there was cell phones. So he had to actually, you know what I mean? He
yeah,
could, but at the same token now with me in the podcast, I have to say, I took last Saturday off. I can't tell you the first time that I did not do a single thing for either Window Works or the podcast for one whole day. I don't
woo.
recall the last time. I really don't. And he just looked at me like, and he kept saying, well, what are you doing now? And I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to go for a walk. And then he was like, well, what are you doing now? And I'm like, well, you want to, go, well, I think I'll take a walk up to the beach now. He's like, wait, this is your fourth walk today? I'm like, yeah, it's a great day. And he's like, when
Yeah,
are you going to work? And I'm like, I'm not feeling work today. It's like, wow. He's
yeah,
like he
yeah,
just was amazed. And then he was like,
yeah,
oh, well, then let me get on this. Let's go do something together.
yeah. I kept saying, I think it comes from sometimes I think your loved ones want to protect you too. And I think there was kind of a turning pivot point where I just said, so let me fail. Like
Right.
if everyone's so
Good
concerned about
line.
how much I'm working, like let me fail then. Let me figure it out on my own.
Wow.
We can all survive. We're going to survive through this. If I fail and I fall on my butt, then I fall on my butt and I don't go on. It's like it is what it is.
Right.
And and I think once I sort of express that, like, you know what, I'm not going to stop. If you guys are so concerned, let me fail then. And then, the
Yeah.
rest is history. It didn't
Yeah.
happen. So it was definitely a lot of sacrifices that everybody made. And I say that I didn't just do this on my own. I've
Mm.
got an amazing my husband's amazing.
No, he
Absolutely
must be.
amazing.
He has to be. I mean, I know what you just here's what I know. Just looking at what you have created, I know the sacrifice that it had to take. And now
Okay.
hearing it, it's just confirmed. And so I know what that does to the
Yeah.
other people around you. I know how hard it is for them and how they also fight. They fight with wanting to support you but wanting your time. And they fight with, like you
Yeah.
said, wanting to protect you but wanting to tell you, go girl, you got this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a tough dance, and I feel like it's very common to the entrepreneur dance, and it's very common to the entrepreneur, I mean to say. And but you there, it does have to start with a conviction and a knowledge in you that you
Yeah.
know you've got this, right, Amber?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and the second that I mean, we all go through the ups and downs of, oh man, maybe I can't do this, maybe I don't have the chops for this, maybe I'm gonna fall flat on my face. But the constant stream is that you're gonna try until you do, and
Right.
if hopefully you won't. And most of the time, anybody who's convicted enough to something, eventually it'll happen,
Yeah.
in some form or another,
Yeah. It's really.
some form or another.
Yeah, I'm so happy to actually have this more, in depth, conversation with you, because there's just so much more that's coming out, and I'm glad
Yeah,
for it. It's really cool.
yeah, it's amazing.
Well, and the thing is, because what I feel like is that there's no question that you are well loved and admired by the community, and for good reason. And that's why I've met several people, as I said, that said I came because she was talking and I just love her and she's hysterical and she just is so talented and all these things. But it's hard for somebody who has 200 or 1,000 followers on Instagram, or a blog that their mother and their 3 girlfriends are reading, to
Yeah,
really understand that it isn't, you just don't get tapped by the universe. That it
yeah,
really, if you want to duplicate and create what somebody like yourself has done, make no mistake about the hours that you'll spend. And if you don't want to spend those hours because you're not the person that's going to, miss 3 hours of relaxing time with your family in the evening, then own that too, and have a Instagram following with 500 followers and have a great life, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And settle on not, and by no means am I saying that's mediocre, because
No.
like I said, I
Right.
really truly believe it is what it is, and of course we all obsess over the numbers, but essentially 500 to someone is a big deal.
Right.
Maybe it is, and 300 or whatever it is, it's all relative. So, but you really do get what you give, and the harder you work and more obsessed you are with making sure, if that is what your goal is and that is what your numbers, if numbers are a big thing to you and readership is a big thing to you or whatever, you'll sacrifice those 3 hours because you want it enough.
Right.
3 hours of being with your family is meh in the grand scheme of sitting in your office or whatever, sitting in your
Whatever.
office
They'll be
with
there
you. And
tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. I know it, and as kind of crass as that sounds, it was my reality.
Yes.
My daughter there was no time, or my husband or anybody in my life never doubted that I loved them.
Right.
It was just, they weren't like, man, she must hate me because she would
Exactly.
rather be working. No, and now it all came full circle, and I do it all for them anyway. And the whole point of doing it all was for all of them anyway. So
Right,
no,
right, right.
it's you just gotta hustle.
Yeah.
You never take off your hustle hat.
That's
And
it. That's it.
yeah,
Well, there's 2 things that you said in there that I like, is to just face what your goal is, right? And acknowledge that at that moment that is more important than something else that you're giving up, and own that. And the other thing is that I don't know if I heard it at the conference. I don't know where I heard it, but and it was you. Maybe you'll tell me it was you that said this, but I remember somebody pointed out that if you have 300 followers, and on one hand you stand there and you consider, geez, somebody else has 10,000 or 300,000 or whatever, I only have 300. But if you actually were to put 300 people in front of you and look at those faces and recognize that those 300 people show up every day to see what you post, that's pretty significant,
yeah. I
right?
think I did say that at the
I
conference.
feel
Yeah, I
like
think
yeah.
I think I said something along those lines. It was just like, I think it was for me, it was these milestones of really almost analyzing like exactly why people were coming back. And oh my gosh, I was thrilled that anybody was coming back, whether it be 300 people or, now whatever it is,
Right.
300,000 or something. And if that is the case, every single one of those people matter to me.
Right.
Every single one of those people have gotten me to where I am today. This, of course, didn't happen by fluke, by luck. This is because people actually give enough of a crap to want to, sorry, Luann,
That's
to come
okay.
back.
That's kosher.
The
That's
C
fine.
word is all right. They want to come back and see what I have to show or say or whatever,
Right.
and
And
I'm
they're to be
very,
valued and
yep,
appreciated, right? Not to
absolutely.
be marginalized or sidelined. It's funny because I think that when you put it in the context of picturing actual people,
People,
then
yeah,
right, it's like, oh, it actually isn't just a number. It actually is a person. And there's 300 of those persons that are looking at the living room that I just posted. That's
yeah.
pretty amazing. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So, but I love the distinction of if you have the other goal to try and reach for the platform of a level of yours, that it's not just putting up pretty pictures and people show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Of course, it
another
does
thing,
have to
and
be pretty pictures, though, right? Do you want to
it
talk
does
about
have to
that
be
a little
pretty
bit
pictures.
about that?
Yeah, I will. I absolutely will. So I think we were kind of talking about like what it was my strategy in the
Yes,
very
exactly.
beginning
The
to kind of,
formula.
yeah, and what was I doing? And it was dumb things like I was putting my cute new boots on a rug, and then I was eventually selling the rug, and then that person, then I would do a giveaway, and that just kind of became a community in and of itself, and people were coming to it to see if I was going to be selling something that day or whatever. And then I started my store online, my e-commerce store. This is before we opened up a brick and mortar, and that was, getting a lot of love, and that was doing really well, and that far exceeded any kind of crazy expectations that I had. And then I started to really realize like, man, I have to up my photo game. And I hadn't really done, I think one of the first projects I had really completed on my own and photographed was my own home.
Mm.
And that was in, oh man, I think it was 2012, and it immediately got picked up in a magazine. It got picked up,
Whoa.
so Glitter
From,
Guide,
wait, from Instagram, it got picked up in a
it
magazine?
actually, no, so
No.
from Instagram, it's like a, I think they have a blog as well, Glitter Guide. They actually had sent a photographer to my house to do kind of like a piece on me. And then from that piece, HGTV magazine picked up the whole house and then ran a whole, they sent a photographer, and it was David Say, this guy who's an incredible photographer, and
Wow.
sent him to my house, and they had a stylist and all this stuff. And that was the first time the house really was actually like published properly besides the Glitter Guide blog post.
Okay.
And it was from there that I was reposting those photos, and those were the photos that were getting the most likes. And I
Okay.
said, wow, so like my crappy iPhone pics, that's actually a hashtag that I have. It's crappy iPhone pics are my jam, because sometimes that's just all we can do sometimes. But in the very beginning, that's what I was just doing, iPhone photos. And then once I started using professional, I said, whoa, well, this is a total difference. And
Game changer.
yeah, and so I really ended up like, I didn't have a lot of projects to shoot. But one of my first ones that I had that was a final one that I had done on my own was in 2014, and it was a hashtag of doctor client clients. And that was another thing that I did that was actually totally just a humorous thing. It was a way for me to hashtag my project, so I gave them, silly names. All
I
my
know. I
clients,
noticed it
like,
on your blog, the names. I love them.
yeah,
They're adorable.
all my clients have silly names. Well, the ones that will let me, of course, not all my clients let me take photographs and call them silly things. Some of them are like, oh God, what's our hashtag gonna be? I'm
That's
not
so
even
funny.
kidding. We met with a client the other day, and we're doing their house, and he's just like, the whole time at the very end, he goes, okay, so what is our hashtag? What is it gonna be? And I said, I don't know. Are you guys sensitive to it, or can I just do my thing? They're like, well, can we talk about it?
Could you run it by us?
It's
And you wait for it to just organically develop through the process, probably.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
depends on who they are. So learn, clients who are listening in the future, you better be cool, because you might have a funny anyway. So I started I finally had a really good project and photographed, and I started working with the same photographer who I've used on every single project since. I've never wavered, and it's
Mm.
Tessa Waitstadt. I can never pronounce her last name. I tag her on everything, so you can look on Instagram and see. But anyway, I started working with her, and her photography is so beautiful, and so it really was exactly what my spaces look like. So it was
Mm.
like such a compliment, and I just started like only working with her, and only then trying to really focus on making sure the photography was pretty. And that's
Very
kind
nice.
of lots of followers from that. I think once that kind of became a staple.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's everybody has echoed that it's important to just build it into the project in the beginning that you're
Yeah,
going, put the line item in for the photography and just try and do it on the day of install before they mess the house up.
absolutely. Oh man.
Right?
Always try to get it in when the contractors are out
Hmm.
and right when you're installing and before the clients bring their stuff,
That's
you know.
it. That's
I don't want
it.
to see your stuff. I only want to see the stuff I put in that I approved of.
That's it.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Don't get mad at me.
That's it.
Like,
Grandma's blanket over there on the sofa. Not my look.
not gonna happen.
That's
That dog bowl is ugly. Get it out.
that's
No.
it. That's it. So you were just featured in AD this past October. Your kitchen went up, right?
Yeah, actually twice
Oh my,
this blast. I've been in one of the houses I did in Santa Monica was in there, and then yeah, my kitchen as well.
that's pretty amazing.
It's pretty good. I couldn't that was a big one. I think Sunset magazine was like the second one I was ever actually like an actual physical magazine, and that was when I thought, wow, I actually may have made it because my grandpa actually knew what it was. He was so proud of me. He was very proud of me, my
Oh.
grandpa. And my dad. It was like, oh, maybe she actually it kind of legitimized my whole career
Right, right, right.
for a second, for a minute. We're still trying to figure it all out, but
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
AD did, and that was amazing. You know, it's Architectural Digest. You can't
Right.
argue with that. It's a good
That's
one.
right. That's
It's
right.
a good one.
The other thing that I saw that I thought was fun was the Lowe's challenge you did, the upgrade the builder's bath for
Yeah,
$1,000. I don't
yeah.
remember the date on that. Was that recent or how long ago
Oh
was that?
God, no, that was a while
That
ago.
was a while.
Oh, I should know this off the top of my head. I want to say it was 2014.
Okay,
I
so
think
3 years ago.
yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah. And
and
how does something like that happen, Amber? Is that something where a designer can reach out or they have to find you in order to be a part of that? Because once I saw yours, then I saw that it's a thing that they have other designers doing it.
yeah. So along the blog process, as the blog really started to get a name for itself, because of course, back true to my roots is that this all really started from the blog, and it has since quite evolved where the blog is not necessarily taken a back seat, but most of the time I'm doing a lot of before and afters and not posting as much. I really try to post content that my readers or anybody who wants to see kind of before pictures or after pictures or hear about the process, that's when I draw my readers to come back to the blog.
Mm.
But for a while, and still to this day, I do work with sponsors. So as the blog started really gaining some traction, I was approached by an agency, a management, and kind of a sponsor. They hook you up with sponsors and basically a social media agency, if you will. They have nothing to do with our Instagram, but it's a lot of blog
Okay.
sponsorship.
Okay.
And so I was approached by them, and as the years have gone by, they sort of bring you the big brands, and one of the big
Mm.
brands that approached was Lowe's. I've
Okay.
worked with quite a few. Lowe's was a great one to work with. They're an amazing company. They're one of my favorite partnerships I've ever worked with because they were very cool with the process. Like they just really were just like, do your thing. It's
Mm.
$1,000. We know it's hard. Try. See what you can do. And it was tough.
You
Um,
did a great job. I loved it.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
loved
So
it.
we went, thank you. And then so that kind of as the blog has progressed, anybody who wants to work with us, a lot of times we get, inundated by many an email. I would say, I don't know, 20, 25 a week or something like that of
Mm.
potential sponsorships, like serious ones. And then
Wow.
we kind of filter that through to the agency, and then I just pick and choose what makes sense. But really, the interior design business has become such a beast of its own
Oh,
that
yeah.
we really try to work with with brands that that really line up with what we're kind of doing all the time. And when we can dedicate that content
right
to, a brand specifically, then we work really hard to do that. I know a lot of bloggers that just solely work on those sponsorships because they're lucrative and they can pay amazingly. And I tend to kind of only do ones that I really like working with.
that align with you.
Yeah, that align. Yeah.
I
think
agree.
in the beginning I did not.
Oh.
I definitely did not. I was like, yep, take it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay. Interesting.
Yep, that's good.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. And there was a couple of them that I was like, did I really do that?
Okay. Okay. Well,
We
you
don't
know
need
what?
to talk about it here. Yeah, but I did.
Well, it's learning lessons or
Yeah.
it's, whatever you decide to do. It's funny because I've had people approach me for sponsorship on the podcast, and we have several sponsors of the podcast, obviously, but I've had people that approach and I'm just like, nah, doesn't line up. You know what I mean? Because I just, I don't know, but I'm also, I'm not starting a business. I'm, at the other end of it. So I'm in a catbird seat a little bit. So, but I just feel like for me, I made a decision that if I'm going to say in my words on air that this is a sponsor and I think that they're a great thing, that I needed to know that I actually believed it. That's
absolutely.
Yeah. So, So, and it was interesting,
Yeah, so the big brands like that, they come through and then they get filtered off to management. Most of the time they're approaching us to work with us directly, and then when they find out we have like a manager or whatever, then that kind of gets filtered through to them, and then they negotiate the stuff and we decide if it makes sense, and we kind of weed it out prior to it going to them. But it's great. I mean,
I can see
who would have ever thought?
Right, but I can see that the criteria for somebody like Lowe's is that as a blogger or whatever platform they're looking to promote, there's some presence there. In other words, it's not just if you're a terrific interior designer and can take $1,000 and turn a builder's bathroom into something fabulous. They're looking for somebody, they're approaching people that also, once they put it on their blog or they put it in their Instagram feed, that thousands and thousands of people are going to see it. So
it's a mutually beneficial
That's the thing for them.
Yeah.
That's my point. So it's not like, oh, I'm sitting out there and I'm a designer and I could do that. Why don't I just write Lowe's? It's like, well, Lowe's is going to want that platform. They're going to want to know that when they do it with you, that when you share it and you write about it, there's going to be enough traction for them to have made it worth it for them to do. So
and there's always compensation involved. I mean, it's not a trade for trade. I mean, you definitely negotiate compensation and you make it worth your time, and it's really wonderful. I mean, in fact, I think a lot of brands are doing this now, and most of them, and I think it's smart. I think the consumer, especially some of these other companies that are really kind of getting that 25 to 45-year-olds, that consumer, that is their brand is through Instagram and through blogs, is because it's the people who are actually doing it that they relate to, not the actor on television or the cute, model on whatever. It's like you want to actually see someone who's doing stuff. So I think it's a smart for all these brands. I think it's really smart.
Yeah, it is. The whole landscape has changed. I mean, it's just amazing the changes that have come up. And like you said, just the alignment with the brands and the brand ambassadors, this and everything else. Yeah, it's a whole new Wild West out there. But I guess, circling back to our conversation about the numbers that is one of the good reasons for putting in the hours and the effort in creating that following and those numbers if you have an aspiration to do some of these brand ambassadorships and so forth, because they do need you to come to the table with something too.
They absolutely do.
Yes.
And you can leverage those numbers, for monetary purposes as well. Like, good. I think sometimes it does equate more money, and that's, if blogging is your business, for example, then you want those numbers to be pretty big.
Right. Well, this has been terrific. I'm so happy to meet you, and I just think that I'm so thankful that you were honest and that you shared, the reality of what looks like just a fun thing.
Oh, if I had $1 for every time someone says, "So what do you do all day?" Oh, crying out loud. If you only knew. I get to make things look pretty 2.5% of the time.
That's right.
The rest of the time it is admin and emailing and management and vendor control and
it's a lot.
Business. business stuff,
the
just like
business,
everybody.
yeah, it's the truth.
Yep.
And it's funny because I was about to close out, but I wanted to ask you one other question I meant to ask you. So it sounds like to me that when Amber Lewis Interiors is posting on Instagram, it's you posting. Is that the case?
Like, and I hate to burst the bubble. It is me 100%.
Wow.
I don't know how I could ever give that to someone else to do.
I agree. And it's funny because I have learned that in my little pond, my tiny little baby pond here. It's like, I mean, look, there's posted scheduled posts that go out. That's a different story to Facebook and Twitter and all that. But I've recognized that if I don't answer the person on Instagram or I don't answer the person in Facebook, then they're going to know it's not me. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, this is defeating the whole point of building a community. But I don't have like 300,000 people coming at me. Like, I can't even, I just at this point, I actually announced on the podcast last week that we are setting up a new email called questions@windowworksnj.com specifically for people who want to speak to me and communicate with me on things related to the podcast. I don't care if it's a question on how can I get connected to this or what episode that, because I'm now having people message me through Instagram private message in an Instagram chat, like not a chat, but on a post in Facebook. And I can't keep it straight in the middle of the day. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm like, I literally, what happened was I literally went back to something. I was like, oh my God, that was like 7 days ago. And I never, because I looked at it. So then the alert thing, the little red thing was gone.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, oh my God. But like when I saw it, I was in the middle of an actual window works, work, and then when it was like 9 o'clock at night, I was like, oh, let me go back and look.
No, it actually is me. I do everything.
I can't imagine it.
So why I'm actually really glad you brought that up. So anybody who does follow me on Instagram, if I don't answer your question, don't be mad at me, because it's really just me. And we get a lot of direct messages, and I try to, a lot of times I can't tag, because I'm really respectful to my clients for sourcing.
Right.
And so I'll get, of course, a million questions of like, where did that come from? And what is this? And what is that? And because I do get paid to do this job, I have to be very, very respectful and mindful of my clients who do pay for that, I guess, intellectual property, if you will, and I can't necessarily go give it away. When it's like my own kitchen or my this or that, I can tell everybody everything, and I'm happy to. But I do get a lot of, people asking me questions, and I absolutely will answer when I can, but for the majority of the time I can't. And because it is just me and I don't have help, cut me some slack, everybody. I got I got stuff going on.
Well, I think that's a double-sided sword, because as you have grown this big, if you outsource that to even a right-hand man on your team, it's going to shift the tone of it a little bit. So it's crazy. And
the most scheduled I could ever be is like I make the joke that I sit in my car when I leave work, and that's how I just left work, is because I'm sitting in the car and finally getting to like Instagram post, and I do. And it's normally me, and if I don't answer it, it's because I went home and I put my phone down, and now I'm spending time with my kid. I've worked my butt off enough to be able to spend some time with Gwenny now when I get home.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, no.
So I do.
My brain spins just thinking about that responsibility.
I love it. And you know what? And don't look a gift horse. I would never in a million years trade it for anything else. I love each and every question I get and each and every follower. And I wish I had all the time in the world, but then I couldn't be designing pretty things to show you guys.
Exactly. So. Exactly right. Exactly right. No, it's awesome. I love it. You have a head on your shoulders. You have everything, just wired in the right way. And you're just very, very impressive. Both your talent is impressive, but your 92% business backbone is as impressive, if not more.
Thank you very much, Luann. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate your coming on. You're the last episode in our Design Bloggers Conference, and you opened the conference, and now you're closing the 5-show arc here. So thank you so much, Amber.
I was thrilled to be here, and thank you so much for your time as well.
All right. Now, here's the thing. Before I tell you all of the things that I absolutely loved about the conversation with Amber, I first want to share with you a little bit of off-air conversation that we had. As soon as the interview was over, Amber said this to me, and we talked about it, and we decided that we would edit it into the conversation. Wait till you hear this. It is so cool.
ever, down the road, if you ever want me to kind of, because I could give you guys, I feel like I have a really funny story to tell, and I was going to try to tell it on the podcast because I think it was really interesting.
Oh.
But there was a time, I mean, and we could, whatever, we could record. You tell me if you want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
But there was right before you emailed me, and this is the freakiest thing. So I had just started listening to your podcast literally because I got to a point where I said, man, I need to outsource a little bit of help. I need to hear other people and make sure I'm on the right track because I am so overwhelmed with what I have going on that I need to reach out to my people without school, without having like just things like invoicing. I flippin' tried Kimberly Seldon's thing because of your
Right.
podcast. I'm not even
Wow.
kidding, because I wanted to know. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, am I invoicing right? Am I charging enough money? I don't know. How do I know? And so I went down a hole and I found your podcast, and I had just started listening to it, and maybe a month before. And then you guys emailed, and for some reason you had emailed me back in November asking for me to be on the
Yes.
podcast. Then you reached back out again, and I had never seen those emails. I never even saw them. So it wasn't like it was in my subconscious to go look at the, like listen to the podcast. I had no idea. Anyway, long story short, I was listening to it being like, man, this is amazing and whatever. And literally 3 days later, after me being obsessed with it and not listening to it on my way back and forth to La Jolla and Newport, you emailed, and I went, this is too weird.
That is bizarre.
It is bizarre.
That's awesome,
It's
though.
bizarre.
I love that story.
I know, but part of me is like, if you ever want me to come back on and talk about kind of like the trials and tribulations of actually interior design, less blog, then I'm happy to do that because I have so much, and I feel like I have so much to share about what I've learned.
How awesome is that? I mean, seriously. We often, all of us we're used to, I'm used to new designers emailing me and telling me how much they love the podcast and how much it's helping them in their business. But how often do we hear about a seasoned designer, let alone one as successful as Amber, say they need help and answers and that she turned to this podcast for them? I just think that's amazing. And I think it's awesome that she's finding the answers here. I love that she signed up for Kimberly Seldon's Business of Design to see. It's like, look, her business is profitable. Her business is successful, but she's a smart entrepreneur, and she understands that maybe she would have found that she was invoicing right, but she understands that there's the possibility that she could do something better and more efficiently. So I think it's just so fabulous. And how about that she wants to come and share more information with you guys about how she's built her business and talk more about those challenges and struggles and successes. I just think it's pretty awesome. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, here is some of the things that I actually did truly love about the conversation that we had. So the first thing is that I love that she understands that she needs to hire people who have skill sets different from her own, and specifically skills that she lacks. That's an important observation to make in order to be successful. And how about that she explained she built her online community by being, number one, truly authentic in all of her posts, but next she intentionally connected her blog posts to her Pinterest, pins or whatever you call them, to her Instagram posts, bringing everything full circle and capturing the engagement throughout the process. She also explained that you have to talk to people in the social media exchanges, comment on their pictures, mention something about their posts, and describe and let them know that you're actually a real person out there and that you're paying attention to what they're doing, not just simply hitting like, and moving on, right? So I had two favorite lines of the entire conversation, and there were a lot of nice things and really smart things that she said, but here are my two favorite. She said this one at the Design Bloggers Conference: don't compare your start to someone else's middle. This is so on point. It hit me like right through the eyes when she said it at the conference, and that's why I made sure to ask her about it again during this conversation. You know, of course, you look to others who are successful. You see what they're doing. You admire them for what they're doing, but you don't compare yourself to them, because what Amber is saying is what you're not seeing is all of the hours, the weeks, and the years it took for them to get there. And to that point, my other favorite line from Amber during this conversation was when we were talking about the hard work and hours she has put in to build her business. And at that one point that she had to say to her family, "I'm not going to stop. If you are so concerned, then just let me fail." And basically, she was expressing that she would rather work as hard as she could. And if that ended in failure, well, she was okay with that, because she would have known she did everything possible to get there. And I think that she knows what every true entrepreneur with any chops really knows in their gut. It's what Grace McNamara said in her episode. Being an entrepreneur is knowing you want to control things and knowing you will do whatever it takes to get things done. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. And it's very clear that Amber is that entrepreneur too. So when you think about looking at Amber's middle and your start, if you're willing to do the hard work, the things that she did, then go right ahead and strive for it. And if you really, because that's the thing, don't overlook that. She really described the hours and hours that she spent not engaging, not paying attention, not, being able to do other things. So if that's what you want what she has, and you want what others of that level have, understand it doesn't happen by luck, and it's not a 40-hour week event. It just isn't. So, and there's nothing wrong with not doing that. You see, you don't have to strive for that level. But if you do, think back to the conversations with Taylor Spellman and Vanessa DeLeon. These things don't happen overnight. What did Taylor say? 8, 9 times pilots she did for TV that were, filmed, produced, put out there, and then never came to the television screen. So it's just, most of the time we talk about just how to run a good business, right? But every once in a while we interview and we talk to these people that have these amazing platforms, and it's not all fun and cherries and roses. That's all I'm telling you. And that's what they're telling you as well. So have your eyes wide open if that's what you're going for. Alrighty. So I really love that. And I cannot wait until we schedule our second, because I know this woman has some really fun things to teach us, some really pertinent things to teach us. I'm sure of it. Alrighty, now on to a couple of our upcoming events. First, I've been telling you about the My Doma Studio workshop happening on Monday, May 15th at my showroom in Livingston. The details and the Eventbrite sign-up RSVP are on our website at www.windowworks-nj.com/podcast, okay? So get over there. It's a free event, a lunch and learn. Sarah Daniele, the CEO of My Doma Studio, is coming in from Canada to lead it. It's a working workshop. Okay. Then, and also I want to give my great thanks to Gail Davis of Gail Davis Designs for suggesting this workshop and for organizing it. So woohoo on you, Gail. All right. Now I'm finally also free to let the cat out of the bag on another very special event that we are having at Ethan Allen in New York City on Wednesday, May 17th. This one I am cooking up with Barbara Vittieri of Designer Liberty. This event is open to the public. It will have interest to both interior designers and design enthusiasts, so spread the word. Ethan Allen is graciously hosting us, and here is the lineup of guests. First, of course, we have Barbara Vittieri, the creator of Designer Liberty. Then Cheryl Eisen is going to be there. Cheryl is the principal of the Interior Marketing Group. And if you haven't heard of Cheryl Eisen, she is a luxury home staging interior design specialist. And when I say luxury, I'm talking $40, $50 million apartments, condominiums, spaces in Manhattan. Top tier. So I'll say in a minute. Then we have Mikkel Welch from Mikkel Welch Designs. And again, if you haven't heard, I can't imagine you guys haven't heard of these people because they are the who's who of the design world. But what I'm doing is I'm attaching links in the show notes to their websites and their YouTubes and different things like that. So if you're not 100% sure who these people are, check them out. And then, of course, we have Manuela Moriera. She is one of the new potentials for the Designer Liberty, and she will be there. And of course, I'll be there because I'm going to be shooting some questions at these people, right? So that's what I do best. So we are going to have this at Ethan Allen at 915 Broadway, New York, New York. It's going to be at 6:30 p.m. And the RSVP is not live on my site yet, but it will be probably within the week. All right. So make sure you come back and look for that. And also don't forget to be on our email newsletter list where we will definitely have a newsletter devoted to this. You can simply text this number, 444-999, and in the text field, enter the word Design Biz. DESIGNBIZ. No spaces, no caps. Okay. In the number space where the phone number goes, put 444-999. In the text space, put Design Biz. That will bring you to a little thing that says, are you sure you want to be on our email list? And of course you say yes. And then that'll bring you to another space where you can text in your email address. And then we will get you on our email. Alrighty. So this is going to be a pretty hot event. Okay. In New York City. And pretty exciting. Definitely go look up these people if they're new names for you. I would be surprised if they are, but if they are, oh my goodness, wait till you see what these designers are about. It's really going to be fun. So, alrighty. I really thank you so much for showing up. Again, I love the iTunes reviews and can't tell you how much I appreciate and value them, and would love for you to, if you have yet not reviewed on iTunes, would love if you would. And please don't forget to show your love to our sponsors, Kravit, Cherish, Mydoma, and Kate the Socialite. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.